If you spray glyphosate, and let's be honest, in this country, who doesn't? The biggest farm groups in America just told you to throw a party. The corn growers, the Soybean Association, all of them, out with statements last week calling a Supreme Court ruling a win for you, the grower. And before you pop the cork on that, I'm going to show you the fine print on what they're actually cheering for. Because there's a piece of this that didn't make the press release. A piece that landed square in your favor on one thing and cut hard against you on another. Stick with me to the end, because I'll give you the read. Whether this is actually good news for your operation, or good news for somebody else who's got your name stamped on the card. And I want your take on this one down in the comments. You'll see why in a minute. Here's the fact. On June 25th, the Supreme Court ruled 7-2, written by Justice Brett Kavanaugh, that federal pesticide law, FIFRA, wipes out state failure to warn lawsuits. In plain English, a state jury can't force Bayer to slap a cancer warning on the Roundup label when the EPA never required one. And to drive it home, the court threw out a verdict for a Missouri man named John Durnell, a fella who sprayed Roundup for about 20 years, got non-Hodgkin lymphoma, and won $1.25 million from a jury. Gone. Reversed. Now, before I get into who's really cashing in here, do me one favor. If you farm or you've got skin in this game, hit that subscribe button. This stuff moves fast, and nobody mails you a letter about it. A ruling drops on a Thursday, and by Friday the lobby's already spun it. This channel reads it through your eyes before the noise sets in. And drop a comment telling me what state you're watching from. I like to see where the boots on the ground are. So let's talk about why the farm groups cheered, because part of it is real, and I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say it isn't. Here's the honest part. Bayer had been openly floating the idea of pulling glyphosate off the American market if it couldn't get its legal bill under control. Think about that. Your cheapest, most used burn-down tool, the one that's in every shed from the eastern corn belt to the western, gone or jacked up in price because the company's bleeding out in court. This ruling takes that threat off the table. The National Corn Growers president, Jed Bauer, called it, quote, "Great news for all farmers in the country." The Soybean Association said it ends the patchwork of 50 different state labels. And on that narrow point, they're right. Your glyphosate stays cheap, stays on the shelf, stays predictable. That's a real win for your input bill, and I want you to bank it. But here's what they left off the front page. This exact shield, the one the court just handed Bayer, the lobby already tried to jam through Congress first. It was called the Agriculture Labeling Uniformity Act, and they folded it right into the Farm Bill. Who was behind it? A group called the Modern Ag Alliance. That's Bayer-led, with more than 360 ag organizations lined up behind it. This was a coordinated push to get lawmakers to write the immunity into law. And you know what happened? Congress said no. The House stripped that language out on a 280 to 142 vote. A coalition of MAHA folks and Republicans and nearly every Democrat, all saying the same thing. We're not handing the pesticide companies a golden shield. So the lobby lost. They lost in the people's house, in broad daylight, on the record. And then, about 2 months later, the Supreme Court handed them the same thing anyway, through the back door of the courtroom. Let that sit for a second. What the grower groups are cheering is a legal outcome that the elected Congress, the one that actually answers to you, had just refused to give. So when the National Corn Growers pops champagne over this, ask yourself real quick, whose win is this exactly? Let me pull you in a little tighter, because here's the part that ought to stick in your craw. John Durnell did everything right. He used the product by the label for 20 years. And now, by the label is the exact phrase the company uses to shield itself from him. He followed the rules, and the rules became the wall he can't get around. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, joined by Justice Gorsuch, so this ain't a left-right thing, wrote in her dissent that the ruling unjustifiably closes the courthouse doors on people like him. She made the point that those lawsuits used to work like an early warning system. They're what dragged the risks out into the daylight in the first place. Now that catalyst's mostly gone, and here's a wild card even the winning side left a crumb on. Justice Clarence Thomas, who sided with Bayer, wrote separately that FIFRA itself might be unconstitutional, that Congress may have overreached in the first place. So the same federal shield the farm groups are celebrating today has a justice on the winning side, hinting the whole foundation could be shaky down the road. File that one away. It won't matter next planting season, but it's a thread that could get pulled. Quick gut check while I've got you. What's your cash bid in your area right now, and does your basis match what you're seeing at the elevator? Drop it below, because I read every one of those and it tells me more than any USDA table. Now, where does the actual money go? Because separate from the ruling, there's a settlement. Buyers got a national class settlement, roughly $7 billion, that got preliminary approval back in March. The class counsel, Christopher Seeger, made the point that the settlement guarantees compensation regardless of how the court ruled. So if you're one of the more than 100,000 people who filed a claim, your road now runs through that settlement pool, not through a jury of your neighbors. The courthouse route just narrowed to a check the company already wrote. So here's your read. And there are two things true at the same time, so don't let anybody flatten it into one. Thing one, this genuinely protects your input costs, and that matters right now more than usual. Look at the board. Corn's been flirting with $4. The national cash average sitting down around $3.93 heading into the fourth. Soybeans near their lowest in 4 months. Cash beans around $10.63. Futures hanging near $11.20 after that bearish USDA acreage, and stocks report on the 30th. When margins are this tight, cost certainty is about the only friend you've got, and this ruling just locked in that your glyphosate supply and price aren't going to blow up on you. That's real money in your break-even. My take, lock your chemical program early and keep one eye on price creep. Because now that Bayer's not scared of the courtroom, they've got the leverage, and leverage tends to show up in the invoice. Thing two, know exactly what you cheered for. Buy the label is now the company's defense, not your protection. If you, or a neighbor, or somebody in your family got sick after years of spraying, that door to a jury just about closed. So, if there's a claim in your family, do not sit on it. Get into that settlement before the window shuts. And keep watching the Senate, because that labeling language got stripped from the House Farm Bill, but the lobby is not done pushing. If it resurfaces in the Senate version, that's your tell that they're going for belt and suspenders. The court win and the law. So is it great news for farmers? For your chemical bill? Yeah, take the win. It's real. For your day in court, if it ever comes to that, that's the fine print they didn't read out loud. Both things are true. Just don't ever let somebody in a suit celebrate on your behalf without telling you the whole story. You spray by the label. Fine. Keep doing it. But now you know the label's doing double duty, and only one of those jobs is protecting you. That's the read. Tell me in the comments. Are you calling this a win, or does it smell off to you the way it does to me? I want to hear it. Do that subscribe if this cut through the noise for you, and I'll see you in the next video.